Welcome to this YouTube upload from Fresh Sim Racing. The purpose of this upload is really more of an in-house thing to try and help any drivers that might just be tempted to join the rest of us guys that are already part of the ACC leagues, and maybe join us for the couple of championships that are set to start soon, starting with the 4-week Italian series featuring either the Porsche Cup cars or the Lamborghini Super Trofeos. The reason I wanted to do this, quite simply, is because we've had a couple of the guys join us mid-season, and they've kind of turned up without really knowing, exactly what they need to be doing, and especially when it comes to sort of pit strategies and there's a few annoying things that this game does that, if you're unaware of, can really mess up your night. So we've already made those mistakes, so if we can help people to avoid that, it might make their experience of the game that much better. I remember Johnny Joyrider joining us literally at the last minute at Donington, and he done ever so well to actually finish that race. No preparation whatsoever, didn't have a clue about how to program his pit stops or anything like that, so he did really well. I also know that Nico tried it at Imola, and it was probably a bit more of a difficult experience for him, and I'd hate to think that situations like that put you off the game. So if we can maybe cut a few corners here, then great. We could do with some more people, and we want Fresh Sim Racing to have full lobbies again, on any sim. I'm not just pushing ACC. On any sim, it would be good to have the the season 1 and season 2 days back with us. So hopefully we can encourage that. I'm not going to be telling anyone how to suck eggs here. All of us set up cars differently. Some of us are better at it than others. I consider myself still to be learning that sort of dark art. So I'm not going to do anything along them lines. But there's a couple of simple things like tyre pressures that are a target tyre pressure to aim for in these cars. I tend to aim for them pressures, get the car set up with them pressures, and then build my setup from there. And sometimes when I'm finished, I'm not necessarily aiming for the same target pressure on each corner, but I do try and start with the same pressure. The car I'm in today is the Porsche 991 GT3. I've never actually raced it, but I'm tempted to race it in the next GT3 series. I've used the McLaren for 2 seasons now, with some success, some race wins. There's certainly more speed in the car, but there's so many great cars in this game. I don't just want to be tied to that one car. I'll probably go back to it at some point because I love it, but before I try the Porsche, nobody else seems to be going with the Porsche so far, so I thought, why not? I've set up a 30-minute race with a practice and a quali. And basically what I'm going to go through is exactly how we would prepare for a race on a Friday, as far as, like I say, not so much setting your car up, but how to make sure you're ready to race and your pit strategies are there and sorted. So as you can see with this car, I have no setups at all. I've never raced it. I've done a few laps in practice, maybe. So literally starting from square one here. I've chosen Zolder. No, I haven't. I've chosen Zandvoort. It's quite a short lap, so I figured we could get more info in quicker by choosing a shorter lap. I'm on the safe preset, which is, if you compare that to Project Cars 2, that would be the stable setup. You've also got the aggressive setup to choose from, which is normally where I start to build a setup. They are really good. You could literally turn up, choose the aggressive preset and race, and there'd be no reason why you couldn't win the race on that. I'm not so sure about the safe preset. I'd say that's a really good setup to learn your car, learn the track, find some rhythm before moving on. I've heard that this car's a bit of a beast, so I should start with a safe, but I think that'd just be wasting time, so I'm going to go really aggressive. I've got the AI on, I think level 90 maybe, which I don't think is particularly high. I don't really do much AI racing on this game, to be honest. I don't actually play the game for what it is. I literally just race with us guys on a Friday, and if I switch this sim on, it will be to try and, you know, learn a track or prep a car, you know, for that meeting. So just before we hit the track, I'm just going to talk about a couple of things that are pretty important. First of all, your steering lock. Each car comes with a different recommended steering lock. All this info can be found on the Discord. So I've looked that up, and apparently I need to be on 800 for the Porsche, so that's where we'll start. You can adjust and fine tune it actually in your setup, but I always start with the recommended steering lock. The next thing, I can learn to navigate the menus, is this button here, which is the cycle, HUD, MFD up or down. I've chosen L3 for this button because when the HUD appears on the screen, it's in the left hand side of the screen, which is, you know, roughly where L3 is on your wheel, on your button box that's part of the wheel. Certainly for G29 users anyway. It may be different for all you high-end rig guys. So if we go actually into the car, and I can push L3, and it comes up with 4 different menus. First of all, a relative, which can pretty handy to know when you're coming up to lap into all sorts. Gives you fair warning that you're coming up on him, so you can, you know, start to brace yourself. You've got an overall table. I'm currently P17, obviously because I've not run a lap yet. Car electronics that you can adjust from here using your D-pad. I do have a button mapped for things like ABS and traction control, but you've always got this as a backup. This is the important one. You've actually got your pit stop strategy. What you've already saved in your pit stop will be here and ready to go, but you might want to adjust it. You may have set an invalid pit strategy, like you've set it not to change tyres when actually you need to, or you've set it not to fuel when actually you need to. So you can adjust that from here. Also, you can adjust your tyre pressures. With the variety of weather in this game, there's every chance that in your first stint you might be out on your pressures, and you can adjust it from there ready for your second stint. Also, you've got your pit strategy numbers, 1 and up to however many pits you've got scheduled. This is just 1 pit stop in this race that I've scheduled here. You can repeat the same strategy, or you can have multiple strategies depending on whether the weather changes, and the game will actually do it 1 strategy at a time. So for instance, on your first pit stop it will use pit strategy 1, and then for your second pit stop it will use pit strategy 2. You can change that though. If you wanted to go back to the original pit strategy because say the weather hadn't changed as expected, you can, you know, go back. I quite often drive with that off though when I'm trying to concentrate. We're going to turn the ignition on, fire the engine. With this car you don't need to use the clutch, so straight into gear and straight out the pits. I'm going to run a couple of laps. First thing I'm looking for here is obviously make sure the car's drivable and does what I want it to do, but mainly I want to get these tyres hot, and then I'm going to go back to the pits and we'll pick it up there, and what we'll be able to do will be to read the temperatures of the tyres, and then we can start adjusting it to, you know, to be where we want to the tyre pressures to be. So we'll cut from here and then we'll rejoin back into the pit lane. Right, we found a bit of temperature in the tyres now after 2 or 3 laps. Going to attempt one flying lap and then back to the pits. She is very lively. I'm a little bit nervous with the car, so unfamiliar compared to the McLaren. But I do like it. I'm going to retire to the pits now. I could just push pause and go to the garage, but on an online lobby you have to stop the car. So I'll try and do that in a sensible place so that we're not blocking anybody's lap. And as you can see, the AI is not set to a great level because I'm 1.5 seconds up. But that's not what we're here for anyway. So we're going to the setup, current setup. We're on the aggressive preset now. It will give you all your last readings for the tyres. The first thing we're going to pay attention to is your tyre pressures. Now the target tyre pressures for these cars is around 27.5 degrees. Sorry, 27.5 psi. There is a window, you know, up and down from that, but I always aim for 27.5. So with this game, obviously our cold pressure there is 25.3 in the left front. The PSI when it was hot was 27.2, and it really is just as simple as adding 3 clicks. We're 3 clicks off the target tyre temperature, so we're going to add the 3 clicks onto our cold. Same with the front right. On the rear right, we're 9 clicks off. Left rear we were 7 off. Right, another thing I'd be doing here would be to look at your temperatures of your tyres, whether the difference in temperature spread across the tyre is correct. But we're not going to do that for now. Right, one of the annoying things about this game, it changes the tyres for you. So if I was to run out now for some more laps, it would automatically put me onto tyre set 2. And we've got 5 tyres to work with, I believe. So as you can see, it'll tell you on the wear rates on all 4 corners. We're on 3mm, which is, you know, the maximum tread left on the tyre. Anything below 1.5 is considered worn. So tyre set 5 is not touched, 4 is not touched, 3 is not touched, 2 is not touched, but we've just got a little bit of wear from the laps we've just done. You just have to be careful of that, because when you set your pit strategy, which is down here, you know, we're on pit stop number 1 there. We're asking it to add no fuel. Okay, so say we wanted to add, for example, 10 litres of fuel. We'll take our starting litrage down. So you wanted to add 10. Dry tyres, and we'll set it to tyre set 2. Just for an example. Well, if I run out now, it would put me on tyre set 2, and then I would start wearing it. So you've got to be really careful when you're practicing in an online lobby as to what tyres you're running on. I tend to use tyre set 3 to start the race, and then on my first stop I would put tyre set 4, and then on my final stop I would put tyre set 5, hopefully using fresh tyres from start to finish. Although I was educated this week, and I was told that if you start the race on a scrub set of tyres, they actually come up to temperature quite a lot quicker. Because when we start the race, we actually have a 5-minute intermission so that everybody can get their strategies sorted, and you really do need that time sometimes. But what that does mean is that the tyres are like literally blue when you start the race. So yeah, that's possibly a top tip there. I'm not sure. I'm not trying to get myself. So if we do our pit strategy now, we're gonna change to tyre set 3. We're gonna start on tyre set 2 because I'm not gonna bother qualifying, and we're gonna change to tyre set 3. Tyre pressures are gonna be way off what you want. Another thing you can do is if you go to the pit strategy number 2, you'll see that the tyre pressures change, and they actually mimic what you've set in your pit stop. So you can just start the race and just use pit strategy number 2. What I tend to do is swap between the two, like left front 25.6, so I'll do that from there. 26.7, 25.5, and 26.2. So now we're set there. Front brakes, brake pad set number 2. There's different types of pads for different races. I usually prefer 2. They're not the best brakes, but they've got the widest operating window, and they tend not to bite as much. And certain tracks, when you're trail braking, that can be quite handy to keep the car stable. But you know, you could do your whole setup on brake pad set number 1 and, you know, conquer that, and it may be better. You know, certain tracks I'll certainly use 1, but certain other tracks I'll use 2, so that'll be up to you to decide. Right, so as you can see here, we're still on the aggressive preset at the top of your screen, but it has turned red, and that means that we've altered it, but we've not saved it. So if we drive on track now, it will run as you have it now. It's just not saved. So if you click triangle, go into save, and name it. So we're in a 30-minute one stop. Let's save it as that. Quite often people like to save the temperature that the track is at that point. We're at 38 degrees C. I started doing that, and then when I realised I had 5 or 6 setups for every race I was doing, I started to think that maybe that was a bit too much thinking, and I just go with my setup. And when I get into the official lobby, if the weather's changed, then basically I just run some laps and adjust my tyre pressures accordingly. But you can do that, you know, whatever way you fancy. Right, so I'm happy with the car now. The tyre pressures should even out at 27.5. We could run some laps and test that. I can't be bothered. So, let's skip the rest of this session. Right, this is qualifying.
Green light, show them what you got.
Obviously you know what you would do for qualifying. You would sure you've got your, well, you've all got your little tricks, taking your fuel out and closing the ducts maybe a little bit more. I actually don't find that there's a massive gain in speed on this game from quali to race pace. Well, I certainly didn't find it anyway. You can find some temps because your car's lighter. I guess it depends on what track you're on, but quite often I found it upset, you know, the setup on my car, and really you would need to actually build a qualifying setup if you had the time. You might gain some time there, but I never really had the time to do that. So, but I was quite happy. I was a notorious bad starter, to be honest, so sometimes I needed to get the pole just so I could enter turn 1 in 3rd or 4th place, but I'll try and improve that. So, as you can see again, we're still on the same setup, now saved, but it's automatically put me onto tyre set number 3, which is what my pit strategy is set to, as you can see. So we don't want that. So let's say, for example, we run some laps now, we get the pole, and then we're ready to race. This is at the point on a Friday where we would have 5 minutes to basically set up your car. As you can see on the right there, we've got a mandatory pit stop. We need to pit within a pit window. Does that say that we need to do a driver swap? Possibly. We've certainly got to change tyres, and we have to refuel. So let's go into our setup. Again, it's put me on tyre set number 3. Let's go with number 2. And we're going to be changing to 3. Make sure your brake pads are the same on your setup and your pit strategy, otherwise you're going to lose loads of time when they change your brake pads. I think that is it. We're adding 10 litres of fuel. I have no idea how much fuel we need. I don't plan on finishing the race, to be honest. The track has changed though, as you can see. You got 25 degrees instead of 38. It's an optimum track, so there's going to be more grip available. So you might have to put some time into thinking about what tyre pressure adjustments you might make. For example, because it's a cooler track, I might take a few clicks out of all 4 corners, just as a guess. I'm not going to do that right now, but it might be something you'd have to think about. Right, I've not saved that, but it has made the changes that I've just made, which would be to go to tyre set number 2. And here's where we get to the race start. So you've got your ignition button, you start the car. Now I'm going to push my L3 button, and as you can see there, my pit stop's invalid because, well, I've not yet used the pit window. I will use the pit window, so that will make that valid. Driver swap. I've not set a driver swap. We don't tend to do that on a Friday. It's not something you would normally have to worry about. But because we've got this menu here, I've just changed the pit strategy to put good old Ralph in the car. So now our pit strategy, once I pit within the pit window, becomes valid. So we're good to go now. You'll get instructions during the lobby of where you need to be. Do not speed, obviously. I don't expect anyone to watch me navigate this traffic. So I'll probably rejoin you just before the pit window, and we'll have a look at how we go through that process. Well, as you can see, the pit window's now open. On our usual league nights, there won't actually be a pit window, so you can pit when you like, but I have heard Nate mention that we might be introducing that, which should be pretty cool. But your spot will let you know when it's open. So, we're going to come in now. I'm not really at any sort of pace here. But you do need to be in first gear for your pit limiter to work. Right, you can set for this pit strategy option to automatically come up at this point. We know we're good, we're completely valid, so it's just about getting through the pit stop now. So you come to a stop and you have to turn your engine off. Also, I've got no clutch to worry about on this car. I did a couple of times stall my McLaren, which cost me a bit of time, but I'm basically ready here to push the start button to start the engine, and I'll be able to drive straight out in first gear. You can normally get it ready with about 2 seconds to go, maybe. As soon as they drop you, you can start starting the car.
Mandatory stop is now clear.
There we go.
Come on, let's go.
Straight out. Your stop's clear. And you just drive her to the end. So, I hope that's helped. I'm sure everyone that's already raced with us knows everything I've just said there, but if there's just one little thing that, you know, anybody could pick up that might help them to navigate a Friday meeting, then great. Pretty sure Nate's got more uploads to come with the aim of, you know, maybe educating guys that have not really participated in ACC. I'm sure that'll be good to watch, so we look forward to those. Cheers.